Hey ladies and gentlemen, Sean, Shrimp Aquatics. Welcome to how to reset an established tank's filter. So if you're like me, you probably had the same tanks for quite some time. What happens if you want to change that tank's filter? That's what we're going to go through today on Shrimp Aquatics. Alright, so you've got your beautiful shrimp, your tank's been running great, you know you've got an established biosphere. But now you want to change your tank from, say, this type of sponge filter to this kind of sponge filter. How do you do it without damaging the ecosphere that you've created inside your tank? Well, your tank, most of your living live bacteria that helps convert all of that ammonia and nitrites into nitrates is this right here. This layer of substrate does a lot of the work. But you want to take your filter, you want to replace it with a single sponge or a double sponge like I'm doing on 20 of my tanks. But you don't want to cause the ecosphere to go through a complete reset. Welcome to my raccoon's tank. Looks nasty, dirty, everything's floating through it. Shrimp seem happy. Same thing, same thing. Well, all three of these tanks, plus this one, just had their filters taken from a sponge filter over to a double barrel but suction cup to the back style sponge filter. Now, what I do is I take my already established sponge and I squeeze it into the tank that it's coming from. So I take the sponge that came out of the tank and you squeeze it. And you squeeze it. See all that gook and nastiness coming out? Well, a lot of that is your still living bacteria. Some of it is all that nastiness that those sponges have been sucking up for the year or two that you've had it. But by squeezing this sponge in the tank that it's coming from, you're releasing that live bacteria back into your ecosphere and allowing your new sponge to suck up all of those living bacteria back in to each one of the sponges. So now each one of these sponges has been seeded with the correct bacteria that's already existed in this tank. For most of my tanks have been up and running for 2 to 3 years. This tank has been running for a year and a half. I never changed the filter. I had only cleaned it once. So when I took it out and ran 2 to 3, depending on the tank, maybe 4 times of squeezing that in your tank, all that gook, like I said, this sponge is now sucking up all of those living bacterias, plus more being seeded back onto the substrate. Now that sponge is going to be ready to go tonight. Same thing with that sponge and that one. All of these have now seeded properly so that when all this clears up, your tanks will look exactly the way they did 2 days ago, the day before, an hour before you squeezed out that gook. I did it to this tank, this one, and this one last night. All 3 tanks have fully cycled through it. Nothing's overly disgusting, and the shrimp are still happy and alive. That's it for me tonight. You guys have a great rest of your day. Keep on shrimping.